write letters to the Eagle a lot, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You retired Navy?
Yeah, I'm retired now.
My husband's retired Air Force.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Would you mind, first of all, telling me your full name and how it's spelled to make sure I have it right?
Eldoris, Eldoris. That's all together.
Eldoris.
May, M-A-E. Then McCondichi, M-C-C-O-N.
N is in North?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
C-O-N. D-I.
Uh-huh.
C-H-I-E.
And how old are you?
88.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. Okay.
You don't look nervous.
Mm-mm. And have you lived in Tulsa all your life?
Well, since I was 4.
Mm-hmm. And, all right, and so you were how old at the time of the riot?
9 years old.
What'd your family do?
What?
What did your family do for a living?
Oh,
at that
they
time?
were just common workers. My mother worked out, and my father did work at, it was a Kennedy's golf course then, and that's where he used to work. And years ago, they had to do the greens, and he was out there on the field.
Mm-hmm.
He used to call them dragging the greens to keep them so they could play golf.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother did housework.
Did you live in or near the Greenwood area?
No, Greenwood area?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Where'd you live in relation to the business district?
I live right, well, almost in this area. My house is over the track, down Pine. You don't know where they, but anyway, Pine is the main street here.
Mm-hmm.
And we were right over the track on Iroquois.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first little street. And my house might have been kind of even with this one over on the other side of the track.
Mm-hmm. So what do you remember of the day of the riot? Do you remember what you were doing that day?
Yes. The day of the riot, we were running. We were, the people, I looked, my mother, when I was awakened by my mother, I was real frightened because she told me what was happening, and I couldn't imagine that. I just said to her, I just got up and was real afraid, and she says, we have to go out, get out. I said, she says, the white people are killing the colored people. And I just felt that I could see them just lining us up, just going down the line too. But anyway, it wasn't that bad, but we had, and the Million Valley track was just lined with people going north. Mm-hmm. And some were in their head rags, old gowns, because they didn't have any time to get dressed to get out. Even some women left their shoes and was just walking down the track with no shoes on. And it was, the crowd was just the whole breadth of the railroad track, on the sides and down the middle. And they were all going north because they couldn't go south. And so we went right over the track off Pine was a small chicken coop. And a lot of people went in there because the bullets were just raining down over us. The airplanes was up, just raining down the bullets. And I could see them, and I heard them, and I was so frightened, I pulled away from my parents and ran into this chicken coop with all the other people. And I got into the corner of that, just scared as I could be. But my father came in there, and I had to leave out with him so I could stay with my family. So that was it. And I don't know, some little town going north on the Million Valley track. There was a farmer there, very nice. He was white, and he said, as many of you people can come into our to get into this house, because he'd had 2 houses. The first one he lived in, and he had built another one. He says, as many of you can come in and stay as long, until.
Mm-hmm.
So we stayed there overnight.
Excuse me, where was that?
This was I can't remember the town, but we went to Pawhuska from there.
Walking.
Still going north. With the next morning, I know we didn't walk, but I can't remember how. My mother, my brother, and myself got to Pawhuska. But we went there and stayed for 2 or 3 days until the all clear sound was made here. And so we came back home.
Do you remember, one of the things we've been talking about a lot is the role of authority figures in the riot, that it wasn't just hoodlums and ruffians, but some of the, do you remember at the age of 9 what the role of authority figures seemed to be?
The authority figures, they were the men who, the businessmen, is that what you mean?
Business leaders
Business
of Tulsa.
leaders of Tulsa, yes, and Greenwood. Greenwood was just our street, our town. All the Negroes just had access to Greenwood. Our businesses were there. We had our doctors, our lawyers, our undertakers. All of the businessmen were down on Greenwood, just say from Cameron on back to Archer. But it was further than that. Some was up, and in our schools, Booker T. Washington was a high school. And we had a school, Dunbar was a grade school, and it was down on Eastern, a little 2-story red brick, Dunbar. And they were all blown up. Churches all over in that area, from, say, Eastern, Frank, on down. It seemed like the teachers who lived on Detroit, up the hill, their homes were just blown apart. And so the better business of the business people who really made the town what it was. And of course, my parents helped too, but they was in a small area. But it was just, that was it.
So what time did your mother wake you up? Was it at night?
No, it was in the morning. I didn't tell this before, but I had been staying with my cousin about 2 doors down from our house. I had been sleeping down there at night, and I don't remember why now, but I would go home in the morning. So the evening of the riot, I went down there, and I said to my cousin, I says, I'm going home, and I'll be back in a few minutes. I did not get back. I went home and went to sleep. And I didn't know anything until my mother was waking me the next morning.
So she woke you up in the morning and people had been rioting all night long?
Yeah, people had, and the track was just full of people. And all I could see was black rolling smoke down south and the people going north.
And when she woke you up and she said that the white people are killing the colored people, your first reaction was to envision it very clearly, not to say why. Did that reflect what those times were like? Did it surprise you that such a thing would happen?
No, I guess I was more afraid, too afraid to be surprised. I guess I'll put it that way, because I woke up just ready to run, and it was hard for them to keep me at that age. I knew I should have stayed with my parents, but just trying to get out of the way.
But in those days, I mean, did it seem perfectly possible that such a thing could happen sooner or later, or was it just, I mean, would it have been as strange if the birds came down from the trees and attacked you?
At 9 years old, you know, I had no thoughts of that, because of anything could happen like that. We were just all out here peacefully living, and downtown seemed to have been, but it just seemed to happen overnight downtown. And I didn't know until I was at the meeting that the race riot really started at night, but we had the first day of June 1921. And that's when we were all involved. We know we woke up running. And we couldn't go back south at all. The people out on that end, and I guess say downtown from maybe Independence on out north.
And what do you remember of the airplanes? You said the bullets were raining down from above. Tell me what you remember of that.
I just remember seeing them up there and seeing the bullets, hearing them as they drop and seeing some of them.
Do you remember seeing white policemen or any sort of white people in uniform or anyone trying to control things at all?
No, no. Everybody was fighting and the Negroes were on the run until it was all, peace was declared.
And you knew that because of the all clear siren?
No. We didn't hear a siren. We were in for Husker, but we got the word that it was all clear. And then we did have curfew when I got back, and the National Guard was here to guard us for a while.
What did it look like when you came back?
Down, well, on Greenwood, the deep Greenwood, it was just a sound of this bricks, stones, buildings blown up. Just the war-torn place. And our pastor, the first pastor we had, he died not too long after the riot. And Jackson had his his building was all just blown apart too, because he was down there on Greenwood. And he had just a little room, maybe from this plastic over here to the wall, and not this long, back from here back. And he had to take the pastor's body in. And I remember my mother taking my brother and me down to see our pastor. And we just had to step over stones and bricks to get in the little door. And because his casket took up the whole wall, like this. And I remember standing in the door, just looking, to see him. And that's what it was. We didn't have any place else to go or take him. And Jackson's undertaker then. We still have Jax, but he's gone, and his son and wife are in there.
What happened to the pastor? How did he die?
Well, they were at church one night after the riot, and they said he got up. Of course, I didn't go. They said he opened the service, sang a song, prayed and sang a song, and he just sat down and gave his Bible to another minister, another person, and just went over, just suddenly.
This was just a couple of days after the riot?
Well, I don't know. No, it was a little longer than that. But nothing had gotten back in place at the time.
Did your family consider staying away from Tulsa after that?
No.
How come?
Where we were, we didn't lose anything where we were. And so that was just home. And we didn't consider moving any place.
How did your family react? What kinds of conversations did you have in your family? Or
none at all, because
really?
If they were talking about it, we knew about it. I mean, I knew about it, and naturally, being a child, we were just children who were then we just, playing how older people sit around and talk, and we were in it, so we knew about it, but they were just merely talking about it.
And did your parents try to explain it in any way or make any sense of it? Did you ask?
No, I didn't.
How come?
I didn't ask because I felt that they didn't have to tell me what I saw and what I was in and the experience I went through. Just being a child all by myself, I just didn't have to ask them because whatever they said was right. I knew they were right because I was right there in it.
So you were 9